On air on 87.7 FM and online at stormfm.com. This is Bangor's Student Sound. Storm.
Hello and welcome to Answer Me That on Storm FM. Today I'm all by myself in the studio, so I'll be answering your questions. We've got a few already, but don't forget to send them in.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text STORM plus your message to 60300. Text charged at your standard network rate.
Hello and welcome back to Answer Me That. So, it's not going to be as good shows last week because I haven't got a studio full of people to have banter with. But nevertheless, we'll get on with things. So the first question we've had submitted is sour cream just gone off cream? And the short answer is no. Sour cream is a dairy product obtained by fermenting regular cream with certain kinds of lactic acid bacteria. So it's lactic acid bacteria which gives it its taste, its sourness. If you put the wrong type of bacteria in it, it will actually turn it into a yogurt. And they actually add gelatin into it to thicken it up if it's made commercially. So there's the answers to your first question. The next question we have, submitted by the same person, is what is the difference between a pig and a hog? So in short, it's the size and by extension, the age of it. So by definition, a pig is a young domesticated swine weighing less than 120 pounds, whereas a hog is an older swine usually over 120 pounds. Very short answers, but there's not much really you can add to those two. We have had a question submitted whilst we've been on air, and that is, why are leopard geckos nocturnal? So I haven't got a straight answer for this because I haven't had much time to look into it. But generally, it's because there's less competition for resources. So it's cooler because they're usually in a warm climate. So it conserves water. They don't have to drink as much. And other animals are asleep at night, so they don't have to compete with them to get their food. Also, if they're sleeping during the day, they're not likely to get eaten by other animals. So I haven't got a very long answer for that one either, but we've only just had that one. There's plenty more questions to come.
You're listening to Answer Me That on Storm FM. Don't forget to send your questions to facebook.com/stormamt.
Okay, so we've been sent in another question now, and our question is, why are bananas curved? The person who sent this question in assumed that gravity would cause them to grow straight. But actually, bananas grow upwards, so they curve towards the sun. So bananas are curved due to a phototropic chemical in their makeup called auxin. And this is part of the plant's makeup, and it is drawn or attracted to sunlight. So it causes it to curve. Also, naturally, bananas aren't always that curved. It's actually EU regulations which make sure that your bananas come out bendy. So if you actually grow bananas or go to somewhere where they do, you can see them straight or in any old shape really. Okay, so our next question we're going to answer, if I can find one, is where does the word golf come from? So lots of people used to think that it was invented in Scotland and it was basically only played by men. So lots of people have thought that it means gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. Although that's obviously absolute rubbish, it's still thought of as a fact in many areas. So the word golf actually emerged in the 16th century, and it derives from older languages and dialects, in this case medieval Dutch and Old Scots. So the medieval Dutch word kolf or kolv meant club. It was believed that it was passed to the Scots, whose Old Scottish dialect turned the word into golf, gowl, or golf. So that's where the word golf comes from.
Get in touch with Storm now. Go to stormfm.com and fill in the nifty little form.
So our next question we've had in is, why do cats purr? Now, it may seem pretty obvious that they use it to communicate. So they're known to purr when they're feeding their young or when they're being stroked, when they're happy. But they're also known to purr in times of distress, so when going to the vet for a domestic cat. But it's under debate why they actually purr as compared to any other sound. Scientists have found out that cats purr between 25 and 150 hertz, which various investigations have shown the frequency range can actually improve bone's density. So it's good for them, and it's also been used for people recovering from various illnesses. So our next question is, why do people clench their teeth? So again, this one might seem pretty obvious as stress, anxiety, but teeth grinding and clenching, its proper name is bruxism, and about 70% of cases it happens during sleep and is again thought to be related to stress and anxiety. There's also a strong association between obstructive sleep apnea. So if you suffer with sleep apnea, you're more likely to grind your teeth. Antidepressants have also been known to cause this. It's listed in the side effects on most of them, or I'd assume most of them. And your lifestyle can also have an effect. So regularly drinking alcohol, smoking, or using recreational drugs can also increase your risk of bruxism.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text Storm plus your message to 60300.
So during that break, we received a question asking, why does my dog purr? It's the same reason as cats, and sometimes it's so they can fit in where they are in a household full of cats, even though they're less known for it. So our next question is, why do men have nipples? So when you're in the womb, for the first several weeks of development, the embryo develops as a female blueprint. So everyone basically starts off as a female. And the reproductive organs only start to develop after about 60 days. The hormone testosterone starts to kick in and changes and actively develops the brain and the genitals. By then, the nipples have already developed, so they're not going to go anywhere. Our next question is, do your bowels release when you die? Short answer is generally no. So when you die, the stuff in your bowels mainly sits there, and a small muscle at the end, your sphincter, releases. So a smaller amount of feces may escape. Rather than that, no. On the note of decomposing bodies, we've also been asked, how much does the soul weigh? It's debatable whether the soul exists, obviously, but it has been estimated to weigh about, I think it was about 21 kilograms? No, 21 grams. So this research was done by Dr. Duncan R. McDougall. Sounds made up, but he's a real bloke. And he weighed 6 patients whilst they were dying from tuberculosis. And as their death was imminent, they were moved on their bed onto a highly sensitive industrial scale so they could see what weight they were. And there was an immediate decrease after they died of about 21 grams. It's debatable what the loss is. It has been theorized that it is when the sphincter releases and it comes out. But the argument for that is it's going to still be on the scale, so it should still weigh the same. Another theory is that it's the moisture escaping from the body as it dies. So it's not clear what it actually is, but the weight of the soul is thought to be about 21 grams, if it in fact exists.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text Storm plus your message to 60300. Text charged at your standard network rate.
So our next 2 questions are questions about the law. Our first question is it illegal to die in Parliament? So on quite a few websites, if you look up silly laws, you can probably see it's in there. But I've had a look and I can't find anything. So what I found is the Law Society have never been able to trace a law which says it, and neither has the House of Commons authorities. So, under the Coroners Act 1988, the Queen's household has jurisdiction over inquests into a death in a royal palace. This includes things like the Houses of Parliament, and it has been thought that anyone who dies in a royal palace has a state funeral, but it's not true, and it's not mandatory. For a start, Guy Fawkes and Sir Walter Raleigh were both executed in the Old Palace Yard, and they didn't get a state funeral. Sir Alfred Billingson collapsed and died in the House of Commons A lobby in 1907 whilst casting his vote on a sugar duty bill. His family weren't prosecuted. And Spencer Perceval, the only British Prime Minister to be assassinated, was shot and died in the lobby of the House of Commons in 1812. And the only reason he didn't get a state funeral was because it was requested that he had a private funeral by his wife. So you can die in the House of Commons, but I wouldn't plan on it personally. So our next question concerning the law is, why is it illegal to whistle under the water in certain states? Firstly, it is possible to whistle underwater. I did research this, watched a few videos. I have not tried myself, and I don't intend to. Especially seems all I have to try and test it is the sink, and it's not very practical to try and skew your head into a sinking hole. By all means, try it yourself. It may be difficult, but don't drown. So, it's not actually illegal. The law in question actually prohibits making noises underwater that are likely to injure or disorient marine life. So whistling is specifically indicated in this legislation because marine mammals such as dolphins or whales can be interfered with their echolocation, and like I said, they can become confused or disorientated, and it has led to them being stranded on beaches and other places. So the law was enacted because lobster fishermen used to hang loudspeakers off their boats and blast loud whistles and bangs to chase seals, sea lions, and other predators away from their pots.
This is Answer Me That on Storm FM. Send your questions to studio@stormfm.com, facebook.com/stormamt, or text Storm plus your message to 60300.
Unfortunately, that's us out of time for today, but don't forget to send in your questions for next week's show. And just a quick shout out that DJ Society will be at the Greek on the 31st between 4 and 11 p.m. with free entry, where they'll be playing some great music, hopefully. If your questions haven't been answered this week, they may be on our rundown for next week. Anyway, we hope you've enjoyed the show. Get in contact, get on our Facebook group and tell us what you think about my first solo broadcast, and we'll be back next week. Until then, enjoy.
Hello, I'm Jimmy Carr and you're listening to Storm FM, presumably because this radio is broken and you can't move the dial.